Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thanks a lot, Erica. And thank you for tuning in to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Rich Walsh will be joined by Brian Batko in a matter of moments from inside our main studio here at KDKA, and we're taking your phone calls at 412-575-2600 is the number. We definitely have a lot to talk about, starting with the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers, all systems go, according to Mike Tomlin, so that's good news. Also, DK Metcalf will be playing, and Alex Highsmith is back after missing 2 games. So the Steelers are somewhat full strength, right? It's a good thing. The bad news is they're playing the Bills, who have scored, the third most points in the AFC. One bright spot here. I mean, the Steelers are underdogs, but the one bright spot is the Bills haven't been great on the road. 3 of their 4 losses have been on the road. They're 2-3 on the road, losing record. And they, lost a couple tackles. They're dealing with some injury issues, too, on offense.
And missing their number 1 inside linebacker. So, yeah, the Steelers are the much healthier team in this game, almost full strength, but they won't have Derek Harmon, their first-round pick. And they also, and more significant, they won't have Broderick Jones at left tackle. I know people have been down on him at times this year, but I think you might be a little concerned if you see Andrews Pete out there getting the start, and he's 32. He was available until well into August and jumped on the moving train sort of at the end of their time out in Latrobe. So big opportunity for Pete, trying to protect the blind side of a guy with a fracture in his left wrist, and Aaron Rodgers. And when Mike Tomlin says all systems go, it's a turn of phrase, of course, but I wonder if it also means all systems as far as can protect himself. Training staff thinks he's okay. Aaron obviously feels pretty good. And then I think the biggest one, can he perform everything that you would want in Arthur Smith's playbook, not just shotgun, but under center snaps as well? And if he can't, do you find another way around that? Do you take those pistol snaps to kind of split the difference? We'll see how they formulate things Sunday.
No limitations the last couple of days, which I think is an important sign that he's trending in the right direction, right? I mean, he even said it's up to him whether he can play or not, right? That's what he said this week. He's usually the guy that makes the call, and if he feels like he's ready to go, he's going to go more than not, right?
Yeah, so, I don't think Mike Tomlin would necessarily want to characterize it that way. I don't think he ever viewed it that way with Russell Wilson, and certainly not Kenny Pickett the year before. It's kind of strange, Richie. This is the 3rd year in a row we've had a little bit of an injury saga with the Steelers starting quarterback, and it gets a little tough to keep track of. He said at times, but at least this one, it seems, is going to end after just 1 game missed for Rodgers. And I think, just judging by talking to him this week, reading between the lines, he felt like he could have played in his old stomping grounds in Chicago, his NFC North stomping grounds. He didn't. Steelers lost. Now they're going to turn back to him this week. I guess we'll never know if he would have needed more time to heal had Mason Rudolph played a little bit better and they won that game against the Bears.
I know Rodgers has said it's about safety, right? It wasn't about pain. But for Mike Tomlin, for him not to start him last week, I mean, we all know Rodgers wanted to play, right? And he said so, basically. Do you think for him it's more about protecting the ball, but also protecting his quarterback down the stretch? You have some big games coming up here with the Bills and the Ravens and a couple division games, but also protecting the ball. You know how Tomlin is. He doesn't even want to throw over the middle of the field so much to cause any turnovers.
Yeah, and this Bills team, while they are hurting a little bit at linebacker, and there's, I think, some question marks in their secondary as well, their edge rushers, Greg Rousseau and Joey Bosa, I believe they've each got at least 1 strip sack to their name this year. They're not Myles Garrett and T.J. Watt at defensive end, but I think Bosa also has had 2.5 sacks called back, negated by penalties this year. So that tells you he might even be playing a little bit better than the box score indicates. And yeah, I think that ball security aspect of it for Rodgers is a big thing. And we know he's been having a really low time to throw all season. He's been getting the ball out quick when you're 41 years old and a few days now from turning 42. I think that's a natural progression of your style of play. But even more to the point, you got to trust your protection in this one. And, if you're going to devote a little bit more help to Andrews Pete, making his first start at left tackle since 2023 Sunday against mainly Rousseau, the long-limbed rusher from the Bills, then Troy Fautanu might be on an island a lot with Joey Bosa, and he needs to win that one-on-one as much as he can.
You know, Pete, a former first-round draft pick way back when, but he was. I mean, he has the pedigree. Let's go to our live poll question of the night, sponsored by Penn West University. Which team needs to win this more, the Bills or the Steelers? And our audience think the Steelers do. I definitely think the Steelers do, especially with the divisional race that they got going on. I mean, I know the Bills are still in their division too, but the Patriots are ahead of them. But with the Ravens losing yesterday, this is a huge game for the Steelers because you're going into Baltimore next week.
Yeah, I don't have the Bills' schedule memorized off the top of my head, but I know the Steelers' schedule, and I know how tough that's going to get down the stretch. And, you know, you drop 2 in a row here, then you're really kind of down and out as you try to go down to Baltimore. Although I say that, and the Bengals just did it, and they've been having a whole slew of issues, much more than the Steelers. Granted, Joe Burrow is quite the equalizer, as we saw Thanksgiving evening. So, yeah, I mean, not just that, but I think the Lions are still a really good team, despite losing to a bitter rival yesterday afternoon. That game, I mean, that could have gone either way. If you watched it, it was really entertaining from start to finish. Even the Ravens, you know, they just made some, I would say, uncharacteristic mistakes offensively, or they could have gotten back into that game multiple times against the Bengals. So I think it's close because both these teams are on the outside looking in at the moment. But because one team has Josh Allen and you always feel like you've got a chance when he's out there, I'd say that the Steelers are the slightly more desperate team in this one.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, we got to take a break. Back with your phone calls coming up next. 412-575-2600 is the number. See you in a couple minutes. All right, welcome back. Now our Xfinity tweet of the night. This is from Bleacher Report. George Pickens currently has more receiving yards than the Steelers wide receivers have combined. Pickens, 1,142. Steelers wide receivers, 1,082. Can't believe he was traded for a third-round pick and a 2027 fifth-round pick. Yeah, you look at this, and I think the Steelers knew that this was going to happen, right? Inside those walls over there, they knew that this could potentially look bad from the outside. But from the inside, this guy couldn't be within those walls. He couldn't be a part of this team. He couldn't be in this locker room. He just didn't fit. He was late all the time. I know I talked about this yesterday with Chris Muller, but it was late all the time. Various issues. Just wasn't pleasant to be around.
Yeah, there was no going back with the Steelers and George Pickens. I think I've said that countless times now here and elsewhere, and I've written it many times at the PG in my mailbag chats, et cetera, et cetera. You know, nobody over there ever doubted the talent that the guy has, and that is very much on display right now with the Cowboys, and it was on display Thanksgiving too. Rich, if he would have completely cleared that guy with the hurdle and stayed up instead of going down, that would have been one of the all-time Turkey Day plays and highlights. So, yeah, there was never a doubt what George Pickens could do. Granted, I mean, he did struggle a little at the end of last year. I think it was also against the Chiefs, wasn't it, where he had some bad drops, or maybe it was that final game of the season, or both, potentially. I don't know if he was just in his own head at that point, but no, I never thought that this was a trade being made because he wasn't a good player anymore. And the Steelers, to their credit, to Omar Khan's credit, didn't try to paint it that way either, really. They just said both sides needed a fresh start, and they're both getting it. You know, the Steelers are in first place in their division, and George Pickens is up there among the NFL's leading receivers. So in that sense, both are kind of succeeding, but I get it. You look at the Steelers receiving core right now, and it's not pretty. Yeah.
All right, big win from the Penguins here tonight, beating Columbus at Columbus, coming back to win that one 4-3 in overtime. Sidney Crosby with 2 goals in that game, is 14th and 15th. Chris Letang gets the game winner. Big win for the Pens. So let's go to John in Cranberry. How you doing, John?
Hey, Richie and Brian. Happy Thanksgiving to both you and your families. I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving.
You too, John.
So a couple of things here. So it's a great time of year. Richie just mentioned the Penguins in overtime. The Panthers hoop team beat Ohio State on a buzzer beater tonight, a 3-point buzzer beater. We've got Mason tomorrow against Miami, and we have the Bills Steelers. It's a great time of year. But my question, I have a question. I've called before, and Brian, I've talked to you about rules. There was a play in the Bears-Eagles game today. Bears went for it on 4th and 1. You couldn't tell if they got it or not. The referees made it a first down. The Eagles challenged it, and then it was reversed. But my question is, with the rules of the virtual measurements, I don't understand now how it's used, when it's used. Do you have to challenge to get the virtual measurement? Because I thought I saw a game a few weeks ago where they just did a virtual measurement. So I wonder if you guys, I'm ignorant about that, if you guys could try to explain that rule to me better. Thanks for taking my call.
Well, the expedited review, I kind of like that. These plays, we saw a play like this with the Bears last week. That was with Y.A. Black almost. You didn't know if he got the fumble recovery or not. So there's sometimes you have plays where you can't really tell which way it's going to go. But that I'm going off on a tangent here, and you can answer the rest of the question, Brian.
No, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because I actually talked to Y.A. Black today before practice in the Steelers locker room. And if DeAndre Swift was down or if his progress was stopped, Y.A. Black's going to take that to his grave. That's his first NFL takeaway. So what happens at the bottom of the pile stays at the bottom of the pile, except for, I guess, the ball in DeAndre Swift's hands. So good for Black on that. As to John's question, I would have to, dive into the rule book to be 100% sure, but I was under the impression that those virtual measurements are called for automatically by New York. So without having seen the play you were talking about today, I'd have to assume that, the Eagles challenged it because they weren't getting that automatic virtual measurement. And I guess good for them that it worked out in their favor. Now, the reverse happened last week on the Steelers failed. I think you can call it the tush push. I call it the Pittsburgh plunge when the Steelers run it. But Connor Hayward, obviously, they called him stopped short. That was a turnover on downs. So those are automatically reviewed now because of a change of possession. That was the difference there in Bears-Eagles today. But, hey, Bears pull it out anyway. Huge, huge win for them. And Eagles fans just booing them lustily. I was watching it with my kindergartner, and he asked me why they were booing. I said, well, you got to understand the Eagles they're kind of the meanest fans in the NFL. And then he was asking me who's the second meanest and who's the nicest fans in the NFL. I didn't really have a great answer for him.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about that. I've been on the Steelers buses going into Lincoln Financial Field and got mooned. Not me. They were mooning the Steelers buses and the Eagles fans. So, yeah, they're probably some of the meanest. The Ravens fans, I would say, are up there too, but that's just because.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that's Steelers related. The Eagles fans, I don't think they would even resent that. If any Philly people are out there watching, feel free to call and let us know. But I think they embrace that. That's part of their identity, the passion.
Yeah, he brought up the Pitt win, and I was going to bring that up here too. Last second, buzzer beater, 3 to win it against Ohio State. They won it last year, similar to Ohio State. And this is a big win for the Pitt basketball program after losing to UCF. Quinnipiac maybe kind of gets them on a roll again, maybe gives them a little bit of confidence. I mean, I know they have some tough games coming up here, like Villanova would be one of them. But, now that we're on the topic of Pitt, that was a great win by their basketball team, but their football team needs a big win tomorrow and a little bit of help. I think they can beat Miami. I really do, especially because the weather here in Pittsburgh is supposed to be 30 degrees tomorrow. So I think that's going to play into their favor. I just don't know about those other two games. The Virginia Tech, maybe because it's a rivalry, but I think SMU is going to beat Cal.
Yeah, great point by John about all the sports going on this weekend. It really is an awesome sports weekend in Pittsburgh. Maybe the basketball team will make like the football team and use an early season loss to West Virginia to kind of motivate them a little bit down the line. Well, then there were some other losses in there as well, but perhaps this can spark them somewhat. Obviously, it's more football season right now versus non-conference in the basketball side of things. And yeah, I think the weather aspect is pretty interesting with the Hurricanes coming up here. I think every Miami football team kind of gets side-eyed about that, whether it's them, whether it's the Dolphins in the NFL. They always get kind of accused of being soft a little bit. This Miami defense, though, Richie, is not really soft. I mean, they've got some difference makers up front. Ruben Bain is a candidate to be the #1 pick in the NFL draft as an edge rusher who just has such a high motor, really powerful coming off of the edge. So that's going to be a bear for the Steelers, for the Panthers to deal with. And they've got to try to heat up Carson Beck. And, he's a pretty stationary quarterback, a veteran, accurate. Maybe they can do to him what they did to Kyle McCord last year when they faced Syracuse at home in a huge game.
Yeah, another big test by the freshman Mason Heinchel. So let's get one more phone call in here before we take a break. Kirk out in Manor. How you doing, Kirk?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good, thanks for calling.
Hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving and all that. Let me ask you each individually if you think that Tomlin's going to have another meltdown, or do you think they can keep control of their division? Just ask.
Keep control of division, I don't know. I think this is trending towards the 9-8, maybe a 10-7 season. They went 4-1 to start the season, Brian. Then they're 2-4. I don't know what team. It's somewhere in the middle there. They had some leads that they gave away, but they could have lost that Jets game. So maybe they could be one game better, I would think. So I'm looking at 9-8 and 10-7. Typical year for the Steelers.
I think 10-7 is going to be tough to get.
I do. Unless they win this game tomorrow or on Sunday.
I was just going to say, you pull this out against the banged-up Bills, and then the calculus changes a little bit. Initially coming out of that Bears game, to the caller's question, I'm thinking, yeah, it could be a collapse down the stretch. And even though I'll never predict a losing season for the Steelers because I've seen them, snatch 9-8 from the jaws of 8-9 many times over the years, or 500 or better from the jaws of under 500 many times over the years. I was starting to waver a little bit, but then just when you feel like the Steelers could be heading towards that, the universe kicks in, the Ravens look bad, so maybe they find a way to split that and they do get to 9.
All right, we can take a break. Back in a couple minutes with our Pitt predictions. All right, welcome back. A big one for the Panthers tomorrow at noon against 12th-ranked Miami. I almost said the Dolphins. The Hurricanes are a 7-point favorite in this one, traveling to Pittsburgh where it's going to be really cold. I like the Panthers, Brian, and I'm not just being a homer in this one. I think the Panthers are trending in the right direction. I think they win this game. I think it's going to be somewhere around 23-20. The over-under is 49. I like the Panthers winning this.
I'm unfortunately going to go with the Hurricanes. I'm going to go against you there, Rich. I just think this is going to be a major, major test for the Pitt O-line, and I'm not sure they're quite up to the challenge of this one. And I think Carson Beck, who's got some really good skill position players on the outside, can have a decent day against this Pitt defense.
It's a must-win, really, for both teams.
Yeah, that's the other thing, too. Miami needs this game as well.
Both have to win, and then you have an outside shot. You need a little help to get an ACC championship. Thanks a lot, Brian. We'll see you on Sunday. Hopefully we see you guys on KDKA News coming up in just a little bit.